Some of you haven't heard this before, so I want to give you the nickel tour of biodynamics. Right? Biodynamics is actually, I think, the simplest body work in the world. Right? The body breathes, primary respiration. You put your hands on someone and you discover there are some places that aren't breathing. And you ask the body, well, what do you want to do? And in Dr. Becker's immortal words, something happens, and then the body's breathing better. What could be simpler, right? Okay, class is over. There's a little more to it than that. But that really is the essence of biodynamics. There is this primary breath in the body, and the primary breath is energy, it's bioenergy. So primary respiration, for those of you who haven't heard the story, there was a guy named William Sutherland, and he was in osteopathic college in the very late 1800s. He was studying with Andrew Taylor Still. Andrew Taylor Still is the guy who, I don't know if he discovered osteopathy or at least channeled it. In any event, so Sutherland is in school. Now, for those of you who are familiar with biodynamics and you've seen pictures of Sutherland, you see the wonderful portrait of the elder of the community, you know, very regal, grayed-haired, dressed in a suit and tie. In 1899, William Sutherland was in his late 20s. He was about to have his first Saturn return, for those of you who speak astrology. He was a kid. He's standing in the hallway of the school looking at a disarticulated skull, and he hears this voice in his head that says to him, "The bones of the skull are beveled like the gills of a fish, indicating articular mobility for primary respiration." Right, that's the whole sentence that comes into his head. And he looks around like, okay, who said that? And you have to remember, he's not the dapper elderly gentleman we see in the portraits. He's a kid from Minnesota, farm boy. Someone's talking to him in the hallway and told him something about the human body that so blew his mind he spent 10 years trying to ignore it before he finally said, okay, there's something here. The human body breathes, not air, that's secondary respiration. The human body breathes what he called the breath of life. Sutherland, to try to find a way to talk about what he sensed, went into his own spiritual tradition, opened up the Bible, and the Bible says, God forms man out of the dust of the ground and breathes into him the breath of life. So this is the animating life force, which we now call bioenergy because we have that language. Sutherland had to go into the Bible and he calls it the breath of life. There's an animating breath moving through the body. And as we know, there's different breaths, right? There's the mid-tide and the long tide and the embodiment wave and the CRI, which some people, there's arguments about whether that's really the breath of life. But all that aside, there's this breathing that's happening in us. And all we do as biodynamicists is we put our hands on, we look for the places that aren't breathing. Because the places that are breathing are healthy. It's the places that aren't breathing that we're stuck. That's where the inertia is, or at least that's what the inertia is impacting. And when we listen to the body breathe and we notice, oh yeah, the places that aren't breathing kind of come to the foreground of our awareness. We say, oh, look at that. And we say to the body, hey, did you know you're not breathing here? And the body says, yeah, watch this. And the body goes into what we call a state of balance. It goes into a place of rest. And then in Dr. Becker's terms, something happens. And what happens, part of what then begins to happen is that the inertial forces that are held there start to discharge back out of the body and dissipate into the environment again. This is absolutely crucial to understand. The essence of what the body does in its own healing process is it's discharging the inertia that it's stuck around. If there was no inertia in the body, it wouldn't need to do that.
Soul Train. Stop.